Okay, so hello everybody. I'm back, and we're going to look at chapter 10 here. And this is a chapter on valuing early stage ventures. And we're going to look at some of the cash flows related to these ventures, and the financial statements that are going to be used in the valuation, and look at accounting and equity valuation and the differences in their cash flow. All right, so everyone should have some kind of recollection way back, if you've taken some finance class, of present value. And present value is basically the value today of all future cash flows that are discounted to the present at the investor's required rate of return. And you should know there's a present value function in Microsoft Excel, right? All right, and there's this famous saying we discussed: investors pay for the future, entrepreneurs pay for the past. Investors want to know what cash flows are coming. So this is, the Shark Tank guys, right? And of course, you don't know what the value of a company is, so you've got to use estimates. So these are important statements that are made. All right, so a discounted cash flow, and you should know all these definitions, right? Is the valuation approach involving discounted future cash flows for risk and delay. And basically you put a risk factor on the return, right, on your cost of capital. And again, this is very similar to present value. All right, so the long-term valuation period is called the explicit forecast period. And that's roughly, and it's not exact, but it could be anywhere from a 2 to 10 year period in which the venture's financial statements are explicitly forecast. And most of you did nicely on short-term ones, but there's long-term ones too. And then, of course, you have the terminal value. And after your explicit 10-year period, you want to know what it's worth, and that's called the terminal or horizon value. Okay, it's like if you plan to live in a house for 10 years, and then you say, well, I'll sell it. I want to know what the terminal value is after I put in all my upgrades into the house over the 10-year period. And the first year after the 10-year period is called the stepping stone year. That's the year that'll define your horizon value. So that takes you from the explicit forecast period out to the terminal or horizon value. And the terminal value at time t-1 is the valuation cash flow of the company. And you've seen this already. This is the discounted cash flow equation. And this is usually dividends up here, if you remember 330. And this is the constant discount rate from time t-1 into the infinite future, right here, right? And here is the growth rate of the venture capital. So this is a simple equation. If I give you 3 numbers, you just plug them in, and you go with it. All right. So here, this was that long example that was in your book, and you should go through this example, this brewpub example. And it's a good example to get you started. And this basically just shows you the discounted cash flow of the present values of brewpub. And here's all the cash flows. And again, I'm not going to probably give you something this complicated, but you should just understand in context what's going on here. He's valuing his brewpub based on future cash flows. Remember, so if you're going to invest in somebody's company, you're looking toward the future. All right, so the capitalization rate is the spread between the discount rate and the growth rate of cash. And all it is if we go back and we take the difference, of this difference right here, the subtraction, you'll notice that is right here. And the reversion value is the present value of the terminal value. And there's 2 valuations, right? A pre-money valuation and a post-money valuation. So basically, this is important, right? This tells you what the present value is before any new money is invested, That's the pre-money, and the post-money will tell you what the valuation of a venture plus the money injected by the new investors. So there's pre and post, and the only difference is this reflects right here the money that's been injected by the new investors. So you should know the difference, right? True and false type of things here. All right, so net present value you've had to have seen in 330 or 365. It's the sum of the cash flows, the discounted present value cash flows, minus your initial investment, right? That should be right. And required cash is the amount of cash needed, right, to cover your day-to-day operations, just the way you have required cash to go to school or just to go to work and have lunch every day, and right, the money you need every day to survive. So the surplus cash is the cash remaining after the required cash, all operating expenses, and reinvestments are made. So after you use up all your cash, if you have some surplus cash, of course you guys would go out or go on vacation. So after you paid your bills and after you covered all your day-to-day operations and all your operating and whatever surplus, whatever left you use. All right, so I think there's a repeat here, right? So we talked about required cash already. I think they're redundant. And surplus cash. And there's an example of all this here. And I believe if you follow along that example, you should read this chapter. It's important you read the chapters, as I said. All right, so I think we talked about, and I wasn't going to cover the pseudo dividend approach, right? I think I mentioned you're not responsible for this, and so I wouldn't worry too much about this kind of stuff. So pretty much, like, the first 10 chapters are important, right? All right, so in any case, what's most important is probably those first 10 slides in this book, all right, this chapter. So that's really about it. So I'll do chapter 11, and you'll look at that in a little while, but in the meantime, you can go over this. Again, read the chapter, please, and if you have any questions, you can email me. All right, thanks.